Well, hello there. It's been over 2 years since I've done one of these updates, so I'm a little rusty. There hasn't been a huge amount going on. We've had some family stuff. My daughter graduated high school and moved on to college, and of course 2020's happened, and that's just been crazy for everybody. But in the last month or so, I've managed to get back in here to the training room and get a little bit of work done. So I decided to throw together this update video and catch anybody who's interested up in what's going on. So let's get right into it. This is the back corner of the layout where the West 6th brewery is going to be. What I've done here is use some heavy cardstock paper and printed out a mock-up of the Walthers hardwood furniture building's main paper pieces. I took measurements from the model kit walls and put them into AutoCAD and created this drawing. The plan is for this to work. And of course, the paper's not really rigid enough to do this properly, but you'll have the under side section there towards the far end, and then this wall will be close enough to the tracks so that the docks can be used as rail docks on this section of the wall. And then these two docks are going to be facing this way, and as yet I've not quite decided whether I'll just have the one and then the partial one and make it fit the depth there. This is 2 inches, and I don't quite have 2 inches for that to be a straight out wall, so still working out exactly what I want to do at the end there. But anyway, this is going to be the Walthers hardwood furniture modified and converted into a brewery in this area. So over here is the Stanley Hay industry, which is also a model of an actual Lexington business. This one I've been working on for a while, not working on for a while, but I did make a little bit of progress. I've got the roofing material. This is 600 grit black sandpaper I've glued down, and I've done a little bit of painting of the tar that's used, on the seams. And I'm doing some planning and thinking on what to do as far as roof details. There's some blower fans and skylights and exhaust pipes and things on the prototype, and they're all mostly beyond where the backdrop is here on the real thing. So I'm trying to decide how much of that, if any, I want to bring forward and have some detail on here. There's also on the prototype a roof access ladder in this little alley space between it and the adjacent building, and I will be building that, but I haven't got around to it yet. Over here is the train station, and this is currently a Walthers Clarksville Depot model that I built for the previous Glover's Bend layout. I'm going to replace this with a newly built version of the same station kit. I want to paint it differently and just take another shot at doing it with some improved skills, I hope. And I also need to change the geometry of the platform next to the tracks, because this is on a curve and it wasn't on a curve before. So we're going to get a new building to go in there. But we poured the parking lot. There's going to be a trash dumpster here, and some other building structure related details over in this area here. Driveway area and parking down through here, which will all be up to current Lexington City requirements, dimensions, and everything. The driveway into the street, which I'm currently calling Station Drive. I'll see if I come up with a better name for it later. And just across the street from the train station is going to be this little coffee shop. And this is actually to scale. It's just a little shop with the interior. There's no seating area or anything. It's just for the baristas to have their prep and serving areas and everything. And there is a little patio and walk-up service here in the front, and a drive-through on the back. This is another one of those cases where I took the dimensions from photographs and some Google Street View and Google Maps views, and created this paper mock-up in AutoCAD so I can get an idea of what it looks like. And I've worked out the paving and the driveways and everything, but we haven't poured those yet. So that'll be something to look forward to. And over here is going to be the Dixie Cup factory, also another Lexington landmark. And this is going to be a cutaway view, so this track, loading dock track here, is going to be inside the building, as with the prototype, which you'll be able to see inside the building here to see that. And so one of the things I'm working on there is roof trusses and details to go inside there. The shorter track here is outside the building, and it's a loading spot for a tank car. And there'll be a large storage tank here that's acting as a view block to this the spur track that's supposed to be hidden back there. We'll see how that develops going forward. Over here we have on the wall spur this Atlas double track bridge. I'm showing this is the bridge itself is temporary. The permanent installation is going to be a pair of plate girder bridges underneath the track. I'll show you those in a minute. I'm working on those. This scene is going to be a creek flowing underneath the bridge here, and so prototypically with a creek you wouldn't need the type of clearance that these through girders give you. So the railroad would almost certainly opt for the cheaper and somewhat stronger plate girder bridges. So we'll be putting those in. I'll show you those in another segment here momentarily. So this is the Micro Engineering 80-foot plate girder bridge, open deck version. I built this a while back. I was planning to use it somewhere, I can't remember. You may notice these rough spots here along the bottom edge. That's a weathering technique that I read about, where you paint the underlying surface with a rust color, and then you soak the bridge in salt water, and you let the salt dry onto there. The salt crystals stay there, and then you paint over it with black or gray or whatever your official paint color is. And then you soak it again, and the salt crystals dissolve and go away, and it leaves this flaking paint, effect. I've held off for quite a while actually on dissolving the salt because the flaking paint's going to be very delicate, and so I'm waiting to do that until just before I do the final installation on the layout. This is one of the two bridges that's going to replace the through plate girder bridge over on the spur. The other one, since Micro Engineering is currently out of stock on these, and no idea how long they are, I decided to scratch build. And so here's where we are with that. I've taken the measurements from the Micro Engineering bridge and built this completely out of scratch styrene parts. And right now I've got the structure assembled, and I'm in the process of installing these Archer rivet details that are three-dimensional. So I've got quite a ways to go with that. I've got the upper and lower. I still got to do the vertical rivets and the entire other side. But then once that's done, we'll paint it, we'll weather it, and hopefully I have something really nice to show off on the layout there. And this is the version 2 of the lift-out bridge that completes the mainline loop. What we've done here, the first version that you've seen before, the hinges work great, but I had problems with the plywood that I made the bridge deck itself out of. It was warping, and so I was having some trouble with the connections, the joints on the rails, keeping them aligned on both ends really. So a friend of mine made this bridge deck for me, helped me figure out good measurements for the geometry, and also put this together. This is backer board that's used for like bathroom tile wall installations, and he's done a laminate of 2 layers of backer board with a layer of cork in the middle. It's very stiff, very rigid, very strong, although perhaps a little bit brittle, but it's definitely not going to warp or get out of shape like the plywood does. And so these are the same hinges that he's installed here. They're also spaced farther apart, which gives it a more stable base at the hinge level. This works the same way as the older one did. When it lifts up, you can see it kind of swings out, and then it's up here and out of the way with a nice wide opening. And these also will detach, so I can completely remove the bridge if needed. We did also, the other change from version 1 is we swapped ends of the bridge for the hinges. On the previous version, the hinges were over here on the peninsula end, and we moved the hinges over here to the wall end, which will also be more stable than the previous version. And over here on the peninsula end, still got to put in some alignment details to keep make sure it comes down the lines properly. But we've also got the micro switch that powers this last segment of concrete tie track, which will keep locomotives from running off the end if the bridge is not down. I think for long-term periods when the bridge is up, I'm also going to have some sort of physical block to keep loose rail cars from randomly rolling down during those days and weeks when we're not doing operations and the bridge stays up out of the way. I'm waiting for microengineering to get their manufacturing issues settled and to get some concrete tie flex track in order to complete laying the track. But this curve is also going to be super elevated. One of the things I'm working on with this layout is trying to complete the requirements for the NMRA Achievement Program Civil Engineer certificate. And one of the things you have to do for that is to build a variety of different track details. And one of the options for that is to build some super elevated track, and this seems like a perfect place to do that on this nice big broad curve. And yes, for the record, this is very close to the edge, and so I will be putting some Lexan along this outside edge of the bridge in order to prevent any inadvertent trips over the cliff and down into the canyon below by my rail cars. Well, this is the back of my backdrop here, and you can see these are the 3M command strips that are the Velcro type that are attachable and detachable, and I have the mating Velcro strip attached to the shelf standard on the wall. I only put them on the top, which is part of the reason I had a problem with the material buckling, but it was easier that way. Now what I've added just this time is these are 3/8 inch square dowels. Got one for the top, one for the bottom, and they're sized to go between the standards. And this is 20 inches, and I cut them to 18 because that's half of a 36-inch dowel. And it doesn't have to go the full width, just as long as it gives enough of it to give adequate support. And I'm using this 3M double stick tape on those because it's a semi-permanent thing. I'm not going to be removing them or anything, and I figured the tape was just as easy or much easier to deal with than an adhesive, a glue or something. So basically what I'm going to do now is, and we'll pause the video because I need both hands, but I'm basically just going to roll this back up against the standards and reattach the 3M Velcro and put the backdrop back in place. Okay, here we are with the backdrop reattached. You can see it gets a nice straight edge. Now, of course, my foam is not perfect, But this is much straighter, much stiffer than it was. It's still a little loose here, but you know, it's a little bit of scenery or something there, a rock or a tree will easily hold that in place, keep it from swinging. Now over here in the corner, this isn't actually attached. It's just cut to fit against the door trim, and there's enough here to make a nice cove around the corner. This 3M strip here is for the piece of backdrop that attaches across the doorway. Right now the lift out, let me back up. So right now the lift out section that goes across the door is out because I'm working on building a new one. But there's also a piece of backdrop that attaches and sort of gives a little bit of scenic backdrop to that lift out section. And again, I use the 3M strips so that it's removable if you know, I need access to the closet. One other thing I wanted to show, I've picked up these LED under cabinet lights. They sell them at the local retail stores. I got these at Meijer, I think. They have them at Lowe's. They have them pretty much all of the big box stores, I think. They can be linked together. I have two of them along this wall. You have the 120 volt power comes in here, and then there's another plug on the other end. I'll show you here that extends across to the second one, and so they're all sort of daisy chained together. This is really nice. It has two light levels, has a medium and a very bright, and you can see that it does a good job illuminating the workspace, and it's very unobtrusive and lightweight. So I have 3 of these in place, and I find them very useful for lighting my workspace. Well, I guess that's about enough for this episode. I think I'm going to try to make these roughly monthly updates, and maybe throw in a few other videos of showing out how I'm actually doing some of this stuff. We'll see how 2021 goes, eh? Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and stay safe out there, all right? See you next time.